So there's three ways that we can respond to our kids' challenging behaviour, whether it's kids at phones, kids at gaming, whether the kids are absconding, running away, breaking rules, just having big bad attitudes. Three ways that we can respond to their challenging behaviour and have the disciplined conversation. Today on the Happy Families podcast, we examine those three ways and give you some clear direction on what to do when things are getting rough at home with the kids. G'day, welcome to the Happy Families podcast. It's where you get real parenting solutions every day. This is Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson. And Kylie, this is a hard one for us because we've never had any children who have ever really needed to have discipline, right? Have us guide them so that they can make better decisions.
No experience in this area at all.
Our 6 daughters have always been perfect and have given us not a moment of grief or worry. I can't even say it. Oh, my goodness me. Do we just give in? Do we play hardball? What's the right way to do this? Kylie, we're going to examine the three most common... I mean, there are more options than what we're going to talk about, but we're going to examine the three most common options that parents step into when the kids are being really challenging. Let's start with option number one. We give in. We just throw our hands up in the air and say, it's all too hard. You obviously know better than me. You seem to be able to see things much more clearly than I do. I've got no idea because I'm old and ancient. Whatever, you decide for yourself.
And the challenge with this approach is just the fact that we're actually choosing short-term peace.
Yes, avoiding the pain right
for
now.
For long-term chaos and challenge. Yeah. What inevitably happens too often when we take this approach, and it's not the approach we want, but we're taking the easy road in the moment, is we actually create a noose for ourselves later on. The struggles get bigger and more challenging, and when the boundaries shift and our kids recognise that there's more wriggle room, they keep pushing against those boundaries often.
Yeah, I love the Josh Shipp. He's an American youth speaker, and he gives great talks, really smart guy, and he uses that metaphor of when you're on the roller coaster and the I don't know what you call it, the harness comes down on your knees or against your chest, and it pushes really hard and it's restrictive. And our reaction is, I want to push back against this.
Yeah.
But he says, we're not pushing back against it because we don't want it there. We're pushing back against it because, well, it might be a bit uncomfortable, but we need it to stay there and stay firm in spite of us pushing against it because it's going to save our lives. He argues that our teenagers are a bit the same. They're pushing and they're saying they don't want it there, but they really do. They want to make sure that it's going to stay firm.
And I guess the challenge for so many parents is we have this desire to have this friction-free relationship with our children.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
We want to be friends with them. We want to have that kind of reciprocal to and fro with our kids. And we think that the way we achieve that is by allowing them to do the things that they want to do.
Which we call permissiveness, let's be honest. I mean, we could charitably call it pick your battles, but often when we adopt this approach, we don't pick any battles at all. We just, we'll fight that another day.
I remember having a conversation with one of our kids' school teachers at one point, and I said, well, last week we were on good terms. This week we are the worst people in the world.
She hates us.
And he, half jokingly, but quite seriously, just said, if your children at some point in their lives don't hate you, then you're not doing your job right. Our job is actually to provide stability, structure, and boundaries for our kids. And being kids, they will often see that as you being unkind, uncaring, unfeeling. And as a result, we become the enemy in the relationship. But it's actually what they need.
I often say to parents, boundaries matter. It's not what the boundary is, it's how you implement it that makes the biggest difference. Yeah. Permissiveness is about not implementing the boundaries. This is the give-in option. Option number one, I see it a lot. Why? Because like you said, Kylie, we want to choose peace. We just want everyone to just leave us alone. We're exhausted. We've got too much going on. And now the kids have got all this energy for this thing that we just don't have the same level of energy and enthusiasm for what they want to fight about. And so we give in. Not helpful, not productive, not effective, not good for our kids' long-term outcomes.
You tapped into something really important there. It seems that when our kids need those boundaries the most is at the point in our day or in our lives where we don't have the capacity. And often that's when we become most permissive because it's just like, just just get out of my hair. Yes, go do it, whatever. And we don't have the time or the headspace or the thought processing to actually navigate that space with clarity.
Great thing about problems, they last. So if you don't have the capacity to deal with the problem today, the problem will still exist tomorrow. It'll hang around until you deal with the problem. And I know that's kind of putting a positive spin on problems, but I like it because it means that as a parent, we often think that we have to fix everything now, and we don't. We can kick it down the road. We can deal with it later. It's not a problem to deal with it later. In fact, it's quite good to deal with it later. I'm a big fan of that. All right, our second most common strategy for dealing with kids being belligerent and annoying and incessantly asking for more, rather than going with giving in, we go with the hell no. That's strategy number 2. Strategy number 1, give in.
Hardcore.
Just no.
Authoritarian approach. It's my way or the highway.
So my feedback on this is that I actually really struggle with this, and I'll tell you why. I meet so many people who say, yeah, but it works. Worked on me. My parents only ever had to do that thing once. They punished me. They punished me hard. They punished me quickly. They linked it directly to what I'd done. Never did it again. And when you hear that, it's like, it doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's right. But I mean, sometimes it can be really effective. Not endorsing it. I'm just highlighting this is the logic that a lot of people will have. And this is why they go with the hell no authoritarian style.
So the challenge I have with this approach is that while it might work in the moment, what it essentially does is it takes away our children's ability to self-regulate. We've actually taken the choice away from them. And there are certain experiences, challenges, situations that we actually need to step in and have a hard no. Like that is our job.
We are the prefrontal cortex of the family. The kids don't always think things through well.
But there are plenty of times where this approach is used and it's not needful if we're able to give our children the opportunity to start thinking, because you can police them while you're with them, but once you're not there, they're not going to go with a hell no.
Yeah. The question is, how do you get to discipline without damage, right? So the permissive structure, the giving in, that creates one form of damage. The hell no, authoritarian, my way or the highway, that creates a different kind of damage.
And depending on the personality of your child, you have a submissive child, then they just accept it and they kind of carry on with life, right? But if you have an oppositional child...
And I've watched this happen.
This ruptures relationships in really significant ways.
Yeah, sometimes lifelong ruptures, like massive blow-ups. After the break, we're going to talk about our third idea. Instead of giving in, instead of handing out a hell no, and let's be honest, sometimes both of those can work and sometimes we need both of those. The one that's most effective, right after the break. Okay, so we're dealing with the question of, do we give in? Do we just acquiesce? Do we let the kids have whatever they want? Do we push back hard and say, I'm the parent, you'll do things my way because I know better than you? I've climbed 43 rungs on the ladder of life. You've only climbed 9, and so therefore I can see things that you can't see. Or is there a better way? Hell no, give in, or work with them. That's our third alternative today. And surprise, this is the one that we're going to advocate for, the one that we encourage, the one that we endorse. Why? Because it's a little bit harder, but it works way better.
Well, I was just going to say, you saying that, I'm thinking about every time poor parent out there who has just gone, you mean more work?
But here's the thing. Fast is slow and slow is fast. When you go with the giving in approach or the hell no approach, you have to just keep on dealing with
revisiting.
So with a give in, it just becomes an incessant annoyance, and your kids become increasingly likely to push boundaries because they're looking for where the boundary is, and so you're constantly being tested. If you go with the hell no, the kids are constantly pushing against it. They're like, but I want some freedom. I want some choice in my life. When we do a working with approach, it might be slower at the start, but it gets faster down the track. Fast is slow, slow is fast. And for those who have not heard this yet, although we talk about it in the pod a lot, the best way to work with your kids is to explore, explain, empower. I call it the 3 E's of effective discipline. Kids want a gaming console. Kids want a new phone. Kids want to be able to stay out late. Kids want to be able to do... It doesn't matter what it is.
They want to go to a friend's party. They want to have a sleepover.
Yeah, 3 E's. Let me explore what's actually going on for you. Let me explain what I'm worried about or what I'm concerned about. Let's see if we can empower you. Let's come up with a solution together we can both feel good about. So we recently had this going on with our Year 12 daughter. She wanted to go to a campsite and hang out with all of her friends camping across a long weekend. And we said, we really wanted to say hell no. But part of us, we're like, well, she's nearly an adult. And there was that sort of, maybe we should just give in. Right? But instead, we sat down and we explored, explained, and empowered. We worked with her and we said, all right, tell us more about it. What are the dates? Who's going? How many couples are going to be there? Will there be alcohol? Tell us about access to emergency services. Like, what if something goes wrong? You're nearly 2 hours away from us. Turns out she's going to be 2 hours away from us at a place that's only accessible by four-wheel drive, has no mobile phone coverage, and there's a bunch of kids who are going to be taking alcohol. Plus, there's a handful of couples. Only 10 kids in total. And the whole thing, we just looked at it and said, there's a couple of really big red flags for us. But overarchingly, the fact that we can't contact you and you need a four-wheel drive to get in and out, which means that you're at the mercy of other people who may be drinking alcohol, for us, it's just we don't feel good about this at all situation. What can we come up with that helps you to feel good about it, but also satisfies our concerns for your welfare? After all, you're under 18, you're not an adult, and we are responsible for keeping you safe.
The conversation went over a couple of days because we had to revisit this a number of times. She really wanted to be able to spend time with her friends, and there's been some changes to the social structure in her friendship groups.
Yeah, so this was important.
This is her trying to, I guess, insert herself. And we continued to talk about it, and I think that deep down she knew it was going to be a no, but she really wanted to continue having the conversation, just with that little glimmer of hope that maybe we might acquiesce. As we continued talking, I actually said to her, I'm really struggling to make a decision on this. I said, because I recognize you're nearly 18. You get, in a few months' time, you actually get to make the decision around this. I said, but you're not quite there yet. And so right now, I feel really uncomfortable about X, Y, and Z. I said, what would you do if you were in our position and this was your daughter? And she looked at me and she said, I actually don't know. And I said, yeah. That's where I'm sitting. I said, so based on the fact that these are my concerns and I'm just feeling a little bit unsettled by it, I think I have to say no.
Yeah, it's not a hell yes. We don't feel safe enough about it.
But it's not a hell no either. It's just I can't feel peaceful about this. I said, what would it look like, do you think, if maybe you just went and hung out with them for the day? Do you think you could do that and still feel like you're part of it and not missing out? And she said, yeah, I probably could do that. Well, as a result, that was actually the decision we made. But over the next few days, as more and more information came to her, she realised that it actually wasn't going to work and she didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And what I have been actually really surprised about, this was something that she really pushed hard for. But because we chose to stand strong together, we were unified in this decision, and I think that that's a really important.
And we worked with her on it. Like, we gave her a voice and a sense that this was something we're wrestling with. We're not just dismissing it out of hand. We're really wrestling with this.
She has actually come around so beautifully in the acknowledgement that she thinks we made the right decision.
Yeah.
And she's at peace with it. There's no feeling of I'm missing out or...
But the critical thing here is you might listen to that story and go, oh my goodness, how nice is that for you? Obviously perfect outcome. But you're much more likely to get that perfect outcome when you don't go with a hell no and you don't go with a I'm just going to give in and let you do it. When you actually say, well, we've got a problem to solve. I mean, the best discipline, it's not about hurting your kids. The best discipline isn't about, punishing them or coming with consequences, nor is it being laissez-faire and letting them do whatever. The best discipline is saying there's a problem to solve. How can we solve it in a way that works for everybody? And if we can't solve it in a way that works for everybody, sometimes as a parent, you do actually step in and say, well, I have to use my judgment. My job is to keep you safe. Therefore, the decision is this, but we can revisit it again soon and see what else we can come up with to make this work. If you've got any more ideas, let's play.
And I think that's key, just the acknowledgement that if you can't come up with a decision on day one, it's okay to take time and to reassess tomorrow or the next day or even next week.
Great thing about problems, they just hang around. Alrighty, we need to wrap it up there. Thanks so much for listening. More information and more resources are available in my brilliant book, The Parenting. Can I say that about my own book, or is that a little bit too self-congratulatory? It is, isn't it?
I don't think so.
You don't? Okay. My brilliant book, The Parenting Revolution, has got all the stuff about how to have those conversations and what those 3 E's look like. Parenting Revolution available wherever you get good books. Our time is done. Thanks so much to Justin Rulon from Bridge Media for being a wonderful producer and making the Happy Families podcast sound so good. Have a great day.